Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kip.
And Dave.
Coming to you live from Stillwater, Oklahoma, here at the World Headquarters for Kicker Stillwater Designs. And, Dave, you look a little messy.
Did I get some of that donut on me, Kip?
I don't think you're supposed to be having a donut, are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. But I did have a donut. Yes, I did.
That's right.
Well, Kip, it's raining here in Oklahoma. I don't know if people know that or not.
It is raining. I'm gonna put this in here.
Uh-oh, a little plug.
Is that a cool looking Yeti cup or what?
Yeti's getting a plug there.
This is actually from our boy Rick Simony, HE Forged Wheels.
Yep.
He provided a few of these stores with some little tricks. So I'm loaded up with water, as far as you know.
There you go. I got donuts. You got water. It's fair enough.
Well, it is a bit breezy here today. We got some serious thunderstorms coming through.
We're talking about some bad weather. Hopefully it's going to, I don't want to say go north or south, because then we're giving other people bad luck.
It's Oklahoma. We never know what we're going to get. Just hang on for the ride.
Exactly. Well, Kip, last week we talked about some of the new amplifiers and some of the features and stuff that came along with it. And we got a lot of questions about specific things, which I probably can't talk about, but you can. So why don't you jump in here?
We did get quite a few questions. First off, people love that we actually were able to go get a new red amp and get a little more in depth on it.
Correct.
We really touched on the new wireless remote. Mm-hmm. If you don't know, that's the coolest thing ever. You need to go check out our Facebook page or hit our YouTube. That video's up. You can check it out. But we really got behind the scenes on that, and it's going to be a cool feature on these amplifiers. But we had a lot of questions. You're right, Dave. We had quite a few. Probably the biggest one is people asked, what's this fit technology you're talking about on the amplifiers?
You're not talking about like exercise, are you?
Well, no. You know I'm not.
Okay. Woo! I thought you were going to talk about, we got to do some type of yoga.
We walked here from our desk, right?
That's fit.
Exercise box? Check.
Done. All right.
So, but seriously, to kind of go back into the Wayback Machine a little bit, amplifiers, they have a really hard job, and their name says it all. An amplifier does just that.
Correct.
It takes a small signal coming in and turns it into a bigger signal going out. It's really pretty simple. But in the good olden days, we had, let's just pull up, for example,
pull up a radio here?
I'll pull up a radio and just kind of show you this. Here's the back end of any factory radio. But, way back in the Wayback Machine, all you had were speaker leads that came out of products. So, in the Wayback Machine, radios had 4 to 7 watts of power, maybe if you were lucky, of real output power, but everything traveled out on a speaker lead. And if you wanted to add an amplifier to the mix, you had to use an adapter. Either the amplifier had to just take that speaker wire in because it was such a low signal, or you had to use an adapter. And anyone out there may know what they are. They're called line output converters,
line outs, yep.
locks, and then there were ones called A-locks, adjustable line output converters. And then, technology kind of moved forward a little bit, and you get into a good aftermarket radio, and you got what's called an RCA preamp output right here. And these, in the early days, boy, you were lucky to get half a volt out of these. I mean, it was pretty typical to be anywhere from a quarter of a volt to a half a volt of output. And, back in I like to call the glory days when I was young and had more hair and had, I had lots of booming systems in my car. But, we always were, you got into 2-volt head units and 4-volt preamp outs, and then we actually had devices called line output drivers.
Correct.
So you'd buy a radio, get the radio you liked, and maybe it only had a volt or 2 volts of output, but you'd buy a line driver to get up to 7, 9, 10 volts of output to drive back to your amplifier.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. And the reason, we talk about this voltage, well, what's important about it is in your car, there's noise all the time. It rides on the chassis ground, it's spark plug, ignition, computer, windshield wiper remote, you name it.
Oh, yep.
Your car is a hostile environment for noise. So what you really want to do is the key is to get a signal from your radio all the way back to where your amplifiers are at, whether it's under a seat or in the rear of the car, and you want to get that signal back there, and you want to amplify it.
And clean,
and you don't want to hear the noise.
Correct.
Okay, so if you've got a radio, it doesn't matter. Take any radio from today that's got a 1 volt, 2 volt, 4 volt, and sometimes that's claim, not real.
Correct.
You just got to take it at their word or actually do some testing. But you're trying to get that signal back to an amplifier, get it beefed up to the power you want, whether it's 10 watts, 100 watts, 1,000 watts, 5,000 watts, whatever you're looking for. But you don't want noise. You don't want to amplify the noise. The last thing you want to hear is buzz, tick, crick, all that stuff that's riding along for the ride.
Yes.
So really, you want to be able to drive the strongest signal back to your amplifier that your amplifier will accept, and then amplify that signal up. Because here's the thing. If I send a 1 volt signal back to an amplifier and I want to make 100 watts,
yes,
or I send a 10 volt signal back to an amplifier and want to make 100 watts, I have to do a lot less amplification with a 10 volt signal than I do with a 1 volt signal.
Makes sense to me.
You know that magical thing called gain that everyone doesn't get right?
Yeah.
That's really what you're doing is on an amplifier, it doesn't matter where you put the gain control in an amplifier. If an amplifier is a 100-watt amplifier, it's a 100-watt amplifier whether the gain control is all the way up or the gain control is all the way down. So what the gain control is for is to match how much voltage you got coming from the front of the car, your source unit, to the amplifier so that you get all of that 100 watts without any noise. So
We have some products that help do that, right?
we do. Now, if you come from old school like I do, you were always taught use RCAs, use RCAs, use RCAs.
Exactly.
So, for example, this radio right here,
RCAs.
use RCAs.
Yep.
Everyone was taught that. And the reason we were taught that is because back in the good old days, if you took speaker leads and went into an amplifier, which you could, and back in that day, and there are still some today, that there was a separate port on an amplifier that you would take the speaker wires into. So if you didn't have RCAs, you could
Yep.
take the speaker wires right into the amplifier. What was happening back then, though, is that basically what built into the amplifier, you plugged into that speaker wire port, was either a isolation transformer, some knockdown resistors, some other circuitry in there to take that speaker level signal and knock it down to a small enough signal that the amplifier could work with it. Because even though you were sending speaker in, the amp wasn't designed to work with speaker level signal. It was too hot.
Got it.
So that's why ALOCs, adjustable line-up converters came available, because if the amp didn't have that built into it, you could buy that separate box, put it on the speaker leads, knock the signal down, and now you could plug it into the RCA inputs on the amplifier to get it to work. So basically, you're taking speaker leads that have all this voltage, you're running it into an adjuster or an adapter, ALOC, so it drops it down to this much voltage, so that you can put it into the amplifier so it can turn around and make it bigger again.
Is there going to be a test after this?
Won't be a test, I promise you.
all right.
No test.
Woo.
But here's the thing. So whenever you put any component in line with audio, you're going to affect it. And if you're after
Correct.
trying to get the best audio quality possible, ALOCs, line output converters, those type of things, they're really things you don't want to put in the signal path. But if you're going to have a radio that only has, for example,
This factory
radio
Yeah.
that all it has is speaker leads,
Spaghetti wire.
and you want to plug it into an amplifier, you're going to have to use an adjustable line out converter or something to get it down there.
Get it down.
Or do you?
No, I don't think you do. We've got some things that we could probably provide them, right?
Yeah, we've gone a little deep in the background, but you need to understand this so that it makes sense with FIT. And FIT on our amplifiers, and we talked about on the red amps, is actually FIT 2, which is our second generation of FIT. But for us, it stands for Fail-Safe Integration Technology. And I'll just turn it around here.
We
so you
have
can
an
see it.
amplifier.
You can look on the amplifier here, and you can see the radio detect switch right here. We'll talk about that function. That's a new function of FIT 2. But if you look at the kicker amplifier, there's your RCA inputs, and that's it, just RCA. Okay. But what FIT 2 does, it allows you to take basically any speaker lead and plug it right into the RCA inputs of our amplifier. You don't need an ALOC. As a matter of fact, if you use an ALOC or an adjustable line-out converter or a fixed line-out converter, you're actually degrading the signal. We don't want you to use one.
So let me guess. That's a kissel.
We make it easy for you. Now, for those of you out there who are really skilled and want to, you can just take a bare set of RCAs, an RCA cable, and cut it in half, do whatever you want, and you can make your own adapter if you like.
It's a lot of work, Kip.
It's a lot of work. Some people just want it to be easy. So to make it easy, we make this device called a kissel. And what this is, as you can see, is real fancy. It's 2 shielded RCA plugs to bare speaker wire. And this is just 16-gauge speaker wire.
Wow.
There's no electronics in this. There's no passives in here. There's no resistors on it. It's just literally wire to RCA plugs. Now, using this, you can take the speaker leads of your radio, your aftermarket radio, or your factory radio, and I'll get back to that in a second.
Correct.
You're going to patch the speaker wires directly to this, plug that right into your amplifier, and inside the amplifier, it's going to take that signal as it is, doesn't knock it down, doesn't adjust it, it uses that high voltage signal and then amplifies it out.
All right, Kip, this is where you know what to say. It's so easy even.
It's so easy even Dave can do it.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
Like in your car,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they did in your car. You kept the
I
factory
did.
radio
I did.
and did that. So the benefit to FIT is you don't need an ALOC, you don't need any adjustable line output converter or fixed one. You don't have that extra electronics in the path, so you get a very clean signal and you get a very strong signal back to your amplifier. Now, we were talking about voltage signal.
Yes.
The stronger a signal you can send back to your amplifier, the more it's going to mask the noise that's already in your car, and you won't hear it as it's amplified. You take the typical output of a head unit, and convert that to voltage. So let's quit talking about watts. Let's
Yeah.
just talk about voltage. That's usually a good 10-volt signal that you're sending back to that amplifier. That's a good, strong signal. So if you have an amp that can take that signal directly in, you're going to don't have to turn the gain control up. It means you're going to have a better noise floor. You're going to have less noise coming through. You're not going to hear all those noises that exist in your car.
It makes a lot of sense to me.
It makes a whole lot of sense. And the one thing is, a lot of people think about this as just, this is how I get my factory radio into an amplifier.
Correct.
So if I got a kicker amplifier, I just use this, plug it in, and I can get my factory radio in. Well, our training guys, John, Aaron, Carlos,
Dave
Gamini, those guys try really hard to get you up to speed, because here's what happens. If you're like me, you were programmed RCA, RCA, RCA. That's all you use.
Yes.
Okay? I know this is going to sound wrong, but trust me, in today's world, it's not. Technology's moved forward.
A little bit.
A whole lot of it. So even if you've got a great aftermarket radio like this that has RCA outputs on it, you're going to get better sound quality out of your system. You're going to get more drive and have less noise if you will take the speaker lead out, put it into a kissel, and plug that directly into the amplifier. Because you're effectively, even if this is a great radio and these are great RC outputs, you're probably looking 4 volts output at best.
Correct.
Even a lot of decks are out to today, and I'm not going to pick on any brand, but there are decks that they claim 4 volt out, 5 volt out. You get them on a test bench and measure them, it's 2.5 to 3. It's not a full signal. But if you take these RCA adapters we make called a kissel and put on the speaker leads and now go back, you're going to get a good 7 to 10 volt signal driven back to that amplifier.
That's quite a bit.
So I know it seems counterintuitive. People think, well, if I don't use the RCAs, it's not sound quality. That's incorrect. If I take this deck and put it on a bench, run a signal into it, and I look at it on O-scope or I look at it on RTA, the signal coming out of these speaker leads is full bandwidth, uncompromised, just like the ones coming out the RCA port. Okay, so if you use the speaker leads, you're actually kind of using it says in these high-powered radios, it's kind of like a balanced output.
So
So you're driving a balanced output back to an amplifier that's capable of taking that through its differential input.
Well, Kip, you know what? For people like me, I kind of understand a little bit better, too, if it's like it's drawn. Do you feel like going to the whiteboard and drawing some of this stuff?
Sure.
All right,
Let's put some stuff off the board and kind of show what we're talking about here.
Let me flip this around real quick. All right.
By the way, where are we at, Dave? What room are we in?
We are in the, what we call this, the war room?
This is the war room.
This is the think tank for marketing. We do a lot of thinking in here, so it's where you see some smoke color on the walls, that's why.
So this is, without getting too technical, okay?
Now, Kip, you did say there's no test at the end of this, right?
No test.
Okay, thank goodness.
So to put it into something you can see, let's pretend that we had a radio with RCA outputs that had 2 volts output capability, okay? And we'll say this is a 10 volt, and this is, anyone seen the stuff that you draw online, people talk about music, always so does a sine wave, so.
Yeah.
So, 2 volt output head unit, you're looking at a signal that's about that strong, okay? If you use a kissel, put that on your speaker leads, and drop that right into a kicker amplifier, you're looking at an input signal that's like that. You're looking at a substantially larger signal, more voltage that you can drive back to your amplifier. And the kicker amplifiers with fit technology, we don't take the signal in the amp and then chop it back down and then push it into the amplifier. We take that full signal and are able to work with it because the input stage on our amplifiers is designed to work with up to a full 10 volt signal into the RCA inputs. So I know it's an RCA input. You're looking at it, you got the red and you got the white, and everyone's familiar with seeing at those, but with a kicker amp, as long as you use a kissel, which is that adapter, you can plug speaker wires directly into those and take advantage of the full signal output of your speaker wires and use that to drive your amplifier. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if we were to, we find an eraser here real quick.
It's right over there. It's high tech. It's a paper
High
towel,
tech.
Kip.
Paper towel.
Yeah, paper towel.
Okay. So if we were to look at this again, let's pretend that we have some noise in the car doing this. Okay? There's some kind of, whether that's blinker noise, ignition noise, whatever it is, and you've got a radio, and it barely has a higher voltage than that. You can see if you amplify that, you're going to hear the noise along with the signal. But if that same noise is sitting over here, and I've got a radio giving me a signal that's this big. See how much smaller the noise is in comparison to my actual music?
Kip, we've got a question that came in. You want to field a question?
Sure, let's give it a shot.
Brian is asking, seems like the speaker level inputs would just amplify the noise of a cheap head unit application.
Nope. The noise that's there, the thing is, if you want to talk cheap head unit, let's put that in as the caveat, cheap head unit.
First of all, Brian, thank you so much for that question.
Positive, negative. Let's just take a channel inside it. And this, unfortunately, is the reality in a lot of cheap head units. So inside a radio, you've got your speaker leads. Over here is, we'll call this the amp that's in the radio, because even though it's only 5 watts or 10 watts or 50 watts, whatever number they want to put on the radio, there's an amp in there, and this is your left channel coming out. So in today's world, down here's the left RCA. What they are literally doing in inexpensive head units, and I don't even want to pick a brand and pick a price point, but a lot of them are doing this. They will drop a resistor on here. And of course, this is tied to ground, and this goes there and tied to ground. That's actually floating, but you're actually going through a resistor to get an RCA output. So if there's any noise coming from the cheap radio that's being amplified from the radio, not only is it going out the speaker leads, it's also coming out the RCA lead itself. It's actually just being dropped down. So now those adjustable line output converters we talked about, a lot of radios today in the aftermarket world, even though you've got RCA outputs on the back of the head unit, it's actually coming straight off the speaker leads. It's not like there's a preamp over here driving the RCA separately that avoids the amplifier. Not in today's world. A lot of them are doing this. So as far as that goes, any noise that's present, it's present on both of them. The noise that we're more concerned with, this you can't do anything about. If you've got a noisy head unit, you've got a noisy head unit.
Yeah.
You got to fix that from the start.
I think we've all experienced that before.
Exactly. What we're talking about is once you leave this head unit and you get into your car, truck, whatever, up here's your radio, back here's your amplifier. That signal, you're sending it back here, there is all sorts of noise that rides on the chassis of your car. All sorts of ground noise, radiated noise, engine noise, all sorts of stuff. So the bigger signal I can send from my radio to my amp, the bigger signal, more voltage that I can send, the more I'm going to mask whatever noise is in the car. So if I can send a really strong signal back to my amplifier, and there's going to be noise there either way. I've got noise in both cases.
Correct.
But over here, for example, over here to get my amplifier to full output, I'm going to have to turn my gain control to here. I'm going to have to get up here to like a 2 o'clock position. Or in this scenario, because I'm sending such a strong signal back
it off.
I can probably put my gain control here to a 9 o'clock position. It's still a 100-watt amplifier.
Correct.
Either way, but over here, I can turn my gain down, I can still make my true 100 watts of power, and I'm not going to hear the noise.
Anytime we can keep that gain down, the situation is so much better.
The biggest problem we have with gain controls on amplifiers is that we have gain controls on amplifiers.
Exactly.
The gain control is not a volume knob. Here's the funny thing about it, is if everyone who makes a head unit, everybody, if everyone said every single head unit is going to be a 1.5 volt output, let's just pick that number arbitrarily. If everyone said that, everyone could make amplifiers with no gain controls. The reason we have gain controls is because a head unit from this manufacturer might be 1 volt. A head unit from this manufacturer might be 3 volts. If you're using speaker leads, and like ours can do fit, you need to be able to take 10 volts. So the gain control is to match the input stage, which we talked about that on the KX amplifiers, that new AccuMatch.
Yes, we did.
Gain is about setting the input stage of the amplifier to whatever head unit you've got. It's not about output power. I don't care where you put that gain knob, a 100-watt amp, it maintains a 100-watt amp. Doesn't change. So if you will use fit, and I know this seems crazy, but you buy a brand new head unit, it's got RCA outputs on it. If you use the speaker leads and go straight into one of our amplifiers using a kissel adapter, or if you're creative and are good with yourself, solder your own RCAs on there and go straight in, you will get better signal noise ratio, better sound, and better drive using the speaker outputs of your head unit than you will the RCAs. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to go, ah, and trust me, I grew up old school too, but this is how it works. As long as the signal is clean, which it is, as long as it's full bandwidth, which it is, we've tested tons of radios, you're going to get more drive out the speaker leads and be able to go in that fit input. So whether it's aftermarket or whether it's factory, you can use the speaker leads and go right in. So this is benefit number 1 of using fit. But we talked about, we don't just have fit, we have fit too. And what's happening today in a lot of cars, a lot of factory radios are moving to a Class D amplifier in the radio. A lot of the factory radios actually have to have a resistive load. They actually, the diagnostic circuitry in the radio. It looks to see if there's a load out there and says, okay, if I see a 2 ohm load or 4 ohm load, that means it's not a blown speaker, and if there's no load out there, the speaker's blown. And then for the car manufacturers, it lets them diagnose and go, okay, there's a bad speaker, we need to replace it. Through when you plug into the ODB, you can read that information. So what's happening to a lot of radios today is unless you provide that dummy load, the radio either won't play an audio signal, it'll go into protection and not play a signal, or in a case with the new Class D amplifiers, it actually affects the bandwidth. It doesn't sound good. So with Fit 2,
before you get into Fit 2, Douglas just sent us a question, Kip. He says, is there a way to use this for a 4-channel amplifier for door speakers?
Yes, absolutely.
There you go, Douglas. There's your answer.
Yeah, the Fit input, you want to utilize the speaker leads of your deck. It doesn't matter whether you're using a 4-channel, a 2-channel, one of our 5 channels. It makes no difference. You can do that. And the cool part is, if you run back into the Fit input on the first kicker amplifier using your speaker leads, then we have that RCA pass-through, Dave. You know that because we've used it in your car. You can then come out of it and go on to the second amplifier, the third amplifier, and you get the benefit of that transmission back through Fit.
Correct.
But with Fit 2, we now have that radio detect switch on there. So now we have basically the built-in load that we need. So if you're dealing with any of these newer radios that need to see a load so that they'll pass a signal, or if they're a Class D and you're having problems with it, with Fit 2, we get around that issue now from the factory side.
There you go. So I think I'm going to turn around and join you, Kip, real quick.
Join me here real quick.
All right, as you can tell, there was a lot of information there, and I did pre-qualify that there is no test today.
No test today, and I know this is a lot of stuff, and I tried not to go too deep on it, but there's a mindset, and I'll use that term, Dave, it's a mindset.
Yes.
That the only way you can get good sounding audio is if you use the RCA pre-outs of a tape deck, CD player. Shows how old I am to say tape deck.
Yeah.
Today, it's not even a CD
it's
player.
not.
It's your USB or MP3 and into the head unit. But the fact of the matter is, it's about signal, it's about the strength of that signal, the voltage. So even if you've got a whammy-jammy head unit that's got 4-volt output, you can use the speaker leads, go in through a kissel, or again, if you're creative, solder up your own.
Yep.
But by going straight into our amps with the Fit technology and the newer Fit 2, now you don't have a 4-volt signal, you've got about a 10-volt signal.
Exactly.
And stronger signal is a great thing, and it's a good thing. As long as your amplifier is designed to work with it, which not just one, but every amplifier kicker makes is designed to work with that up to 10-volt signal.
Yep.
So if you can drive that speaker level signal in, not use the RCAs, you're going to have less chance of noise, you're going to get your full power. And we've done it here. I mean, we've had multiple cases where our guys have done installs in the back, and we've used RCAs.
Yep.
And it just doesn't, we're kind of used to how things sound, Dave.
Yeah.
And we'll go, hey, did you use a kissel and do the speaker leads of that?
And
Like, oh, I forgot. Well, don't forget.
You better go back, yep.
Let's switch it. And they switch it over to the speaker leads, and it sounds a whole lot better.
Well, Kip, again, we had some really good questions. We got to a few of them. If we didn't get to all of them, we will. We hope you enjoy this type of stuff. We enjoy bringing it to you.
We do.
But I want to remind you, if you're ever in Stillwater, to come by and visit us. Visit the Visitor Center, which is open from 9 to 5, Monday through... Oh, hang on. We got another question?
Hold on a second before you cut. JT, just saw this pop up. You need to call in, and I'm going to give you the number, 800-256-0808. That's the 800 number directly into Kicker right here. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Central Time. We're right here in Oklahoma. Tell them what year, make, and model of amplifier you have, and they will confirm for you if you have the Fit input. If you do have the Fit input on those RCAs, yes, you want to use the speaker level output of your deck to drive that amplifier directly. It will sound better. And if you're having noise problems now, so if you're picking up turn signal noise, blinker noise, ignition noise, engine noise, whatever it may be.
I'm going to give this to you for a second, Kip. I got another question I want to answer here.
Okay. Whatever you may get in that thing, if you do that, you'll be able to turn the gain on your amp down, still maintain full power, you'll get all your sound, and it is going to sound better, period. But call tech support, 800-256-0808. Give them the year, make, model of your amplifier, and they'll confirm. Because, Dave, I'm going back, but we started putting Fit inputs, has it been 8 years?
At least.
I think it's been about 8 years that we've been doing Fit. But before you put speaker wire into that amplifier, I want you to confirm with our tech services that the model you have has Fit input. So give them a call and ask. That's what we're here for.
We had a question about what's the kissel look like. So
sure.
Let's just go ahead and show them the package. And then it's available online or at your local authorized dealer. I mean, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't want to make this seem like something real grand and glorious or glamorous. Try to put all three of those words together. This is literally just speaker wire to an RCA plug. Now, if you're good with a soldering iron and you want to do your own, you can run down to anywhere local and you can get bare RCA ends and you can solder to speaker wire.
You could, but why don't you just order one?
But obviously we have enough people who ask, hey, can you make this easy? So we make this, and it's pre-stripped, ready to go, 16-gauge speaker wire, comes down to shielded RCA cables.
Yep.
And all you do is connect this. Now the cool part is, don't even, I mean, I know we got one on the table, I don't need to go, but you don't even need to run an RCA cable from your head unit back to your amplifiers. Just run speaker wire. Just run, and the thing is,
and that'll cover it.
That's right. Run you 16 gauge. You could even get by with 18 gauge, but just run speaker wire from your head unit back to where your amp's at, and then you put this on there, and then you plug this right into your amplifier.
Now, what's the model number for this? So in case they want to order it.
This is called a kissel, K-I-S-L.
Okay, that's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. And then in the kissel, we also include a pair of barrel connectors.
It's kind of hard to see the glare. There we go. There you go.
We include a pair of barrel connectors that if you need, for some strange reason, you're going to go to the other end and want to do this from the radio going the opposite direction, and you can plug it in.
Versatility.
So, versatility. So we just throw them in there.
Nice.
There's that one time when someone will go, hey, I need some barrels. Well, we go ahead and include them in the package. So that's what this is, the kissel. It's a pre-made, ready to go, shielded device. And the whole point is so that you can get the speaker level output of your radio directly into a kicker amplifier that's equipped with FIT, or the newer, as you'll see in the new Marine and KX amps coming up, the FIT 2. And these are great for that, this right here.
Well, I noticed, Kip, I know this video's gone a little bit long, and we kind of went into training, but we thought it was important that we came back to you after the information we gave you on our new amps to show you and talk to you about the kissel and make it to where even hopefully you can understand it, because I even understood a little bit of this, Kip.
You know, this may be even a topic we touch on again, but really it's about breaking a traditional mindset of if you want something to sound good, you have to use RCA inputs and outputs, and that is not the case, not today, not in today's world.
Not today.
If your amplifier has a differential type input or a balanced input, which ours does, and it will accept that higher voltage signal, which ours will.
Yes.
You are way ahead to use speaker leads and get that signal back to your amplifier. It's going to sound better, and you're going to avoid noise, and you can keep that gain control turned down, which is what you want to do.
Yep. And then moving forward, if you guys have another topic that you want Kip and Dave to try to tackle, make sure you come online and tell us about it so we can try to produce it for you.
You know, I hope it shows. We really like this stuff. I've been doing it for a living so long, I don't know that I want to do anything else, but I really enjoy this. I love interfacing with you guys out there. Seriously, this is because we had questions from the last one. You have anything you want to know, hit us up. Our producer.
Yeah, our producer will get with us and tell us.
Get with us and tell us what we're going to talk about.
Now, Kip, again, tell them where they can get the kissel and all the other fantastic kicker products.
I always think it's pretty simple, but www.kicker.com. All of our products are on our website and available there. There's also a dealer locator, so you can find someone locally. Obviously, if you can't find a dealer that's got it in stock, we're going to be willing to take you right here.
Call the Kip and Dave show, and we'll get you in the right direction, and we'll get you hooked up with one of these somehow.
Exactly. So, like I said, we call it the kissel. It's an integral part with using the FIT and FIT 2 technology. And just trust me, guys, I know there are doubters and unbelievers out there because I was one of them. And once I got a chance to try using the FIT input and driving a signal directly into an amp using speaker leads, it's amazing how much more dynamic and tighter, and it's an overall better listening experience, besides the other benefits of getting rid of some of that noise.
Exactly. Well, Kip, until we do this again.
You know, you going to be here next week?
I believe I am.
I think we're both here next week.
Next week. Yep, I think so.
Dave and I tend to travel a little bit, but I think we're both in-house next week. So throw something in the comments. Let us know what you'd like to see, whether it's product, technology, something in the building, because we love doing it for you guys. But until then, this is Dave.
And Kip.
And we'll catch you next week. Have a great weekend.
See ya.